What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 297. We're talking growing into new markets with Eric Davies of Puff Truck Pizza out in Elburn, Illinois. This is Best Served New Volume 3, Episode 6 of 8. It's been quite a journey. I'm excited about this. We're talking growing into new markets. This is a fascinating topic. I've talked about this a lot with location 1 to location 2, even within your own market. The big vulnerability is you have a lot of success with location 1, with unit 1, and you want to roll that into unit 2, and there's huge vulnerabilities, and you see it a lot where unit 2 then kind of siphons a lot of capital, a lot of attention away from unit 1. And we typically have seen this a lot where one location that's successful breeds a second location and both end up crumbling. And so it's an interesting dynamic. Going into a second market can be even a bigger challenge. So I'm fascinated in this dynamic here. So I want to bring in Eric, kind of check in with him. Eric, how's it going?
Very good, Jensen. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am excited about this episode because from the onset, when you and I first started talking, it was something that was top of mind for you, thinking about growing your brand into kind of national or multi-market, whatever that means for you in a growth trajectory. And that can seem like a pipe dream for sure. It can seem like, okay, great. Like, how would you actually do that? How do you go about that? And we're getting closer and closer to kind of feeling like that's a reality. And then exciting, you just let me know that maybe not expanding in new markets, but expanding. So drop some nuggets on us. What's been going on with you recently?
So we're super excited to announce our newest mobile unit. It was going to be Puff Truck Pizza number 2 mobile unit, but we're excited to announce Burger Buzz, which is going to be our new kind of bee-based themed burger truck trailer that we get to pull around to the Chicagoland area here and serve great burgers to people. Burgers have always been kind of our second best-selling item here at our restaurant, so I knew that what we had was a really great product. We already had a bunch of recipes developed that I knew were really great and folks are responding well to here. So we already had that foundation of the food part ready to go. So to me, ready to take our great burgers out mobily.
I love it, man. I like this a lot because when you have the one unit and you're kind of cultivating the community, and we've talked about Elburn, Illinois a lot. We've talked about Ray, right, who is the biggest fan of that burger and introduces coworkers to that burger, is really a champion and an advocate for that burger. It's fundamentally important for a brand. We also recognize that as you grow, you got to really niche down and focus. And if you're not known for one thing, you'll be known for nothing, right? And so one of the things, we touched on is like the burger's good for that community because you're kind of trying to service multiple days a week with multiple different opportunities for them to engage. As you grow, that's potentially a vulnerability. You don't necessarily want to be doing pizza, burgers, tacos that may be like nice features for the one location. So I really like this because it allows you to focus within each unit on its core concept. So I'm really excited about that. And with that, kind of growing into new markets, want to bring in Rachel Angulo with La Cocinita. How's it going, Rachel?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. I'm really excited about this because you're living the dream. Sometimes I'm sure it feels like a nightmare, but living the dream of being multi-unit operator in multiple markets with La Cocinita. So can you break it down for us a little bit, just a little bit of the trajectory, the path, kind of lay it out for us, right? You're in New Orleans, Chicago, Evanston, Illinois specifically, and give us an idea of kind of how that came about.
Sure. Yeah. So my husband and I started our first location in New Orleans, and that was our first truck. That was back in 2011. So we're coming up on our 10th anniversary up in November.
That's a lifetime in the restaurant industry.
Yeah. No, when we, I believe it was, there was one point when we talked to the bank about a loan, and they told us that that it was 10 years. That was the time frame where they would consider us established. And I think at that point we'd been open for 2 or 3 years, and we were like 10, and it just sounded impossibly far away. So it's kind of crazy that we're there now. So,
I mean, congratulations, first of all. That is, anybody like all of us who've owned restaurants, It is unbelievable. 1 year is a lifetime achievement award if you own a restaurant for 1 year with how hard even that is. So I appreciate that. So New Orleans, is that do you have deep roots there? Is that kind of where your family is? Because I'm interested in that. Yeah. So I'm interested in that. And I wanted you to lay that down because one of the things I want to talk about is it's interesting going in a new market. And we've talked about this with Eric, that he had to really like sometimes slow down a little bit and recognize that Elburn, Illinois was not Chicago specifically, and like how he cultivated community there. And so you really build those deep roots there. And then going into a new market, you can feel like an outsider, both internally for yourself and within that community, saying, no, we want to support this or that. So I'm interested in that dynamic for you. Do you feel like New Orleans is such a big city? Sometimes it can feel like there aren't roots there because it's so massive, so tourist driven. Give us an idea of what it feels like to kind of be embedded in a part of that community in New Orleans.
Yeah, so New Orleans, we met working at Commander's Palace.
Under Tori McPhail?
Yeah.
Oh, Tori's a good friend. Great.
Yeah,
great. I love it.
Great. Yeah. And so, so we did have a lot of connections in the industry. And, we had a good sense of, tourist traffic and, what the locals are interested in. Back then, the food truck scene was very limited.
Sure.
We were one of the first, kind of modern food trucks on the scene there. And actually, my husband and I founded the New Orleans Food Truck Coalition back in 2012. And so we did that because the food truck laws back then in New Orleans were very outdated. And so they actually, the mobile, it wasn't even food truck laws. It was mobile vendors. So everything from, seafood vendors and produce vendors to, the Roman candy cart that's been around, forever. Just anything that wasn't a restaurant essentially was lumped under this same permit. And so there were a lot of issues with the laws, which hadn't been updated since 1956. And so we spent about a year and a half working really closely with the mayor's office and the city council. And after that year and a half, we came up with we were able to pass new legislation, which was really exciting. So essentially, it went from a 600-foot proximity ban from restaurants to that being eliminated entirely. We used to only be able to park for 45 minutes at a time. We increased that to 4 hours. There's a band area in the Central Business District and in the French Quarter, which we were able to open up like a band of that where like the hospitals and City Hall are.
Like you had a strip of area that was now designated able to have food trucks? That
exactly.
Never was before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so the French Quarter and much of the CBD are still off limits, but we did open up that strip that includes the biomedical district and
which I'm sure still has massive amounts of foot traffic.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a ton of it's an area of the CBD that's growing quite a bit.
It's good for business, at least.
Yeah, the hotels are pushing out that way. And then, there's of course a lot of traffic with just all the med students and the people visiting people in the hospital, all that kind of stuff. So,
Rachel, this is really interesting. I want to contextualize this a little bit because one of the things Eric and I have talked about is he is really thinking about going into new markets that maybe don't have the food truck scene, that maybe like he could help kind of spark that a little bit. And we've talked about even getting a place where he can kind of have a commissary and storefront, which he does now, food truck attached to that. So he can kind of own the means of production a little bit, big parking lot where he could host other food trucks, maybe the weekend farmers market, that kind of mentality of building community. And so, Eric, I think this is interesting for you because if you're going into a new market like this, I think you're going to run into legality issues with some of the regulations and statutes in that. So this makes a lot of sense. I think let's offboard that because there's a lot to do, but it makes a lot of sense to maybe look at what Rachel and the coalition have accomplished and try and siphon some of that superpower, because it makes some sense. So I appreciate that. That's a long conversation. I want to get into, has the coalition done anything to galvanize and do events, things like that? Have you gone on the public facing side with the coalition as well?
Yeah, so we used to do a lot of that. I served as president for, I think, the first 2 years of the coalition's existence. I think it was 2012 and 2013. And since then, we've had new leadership. We used to do a lot of food truck events, some of which were to raise awareness, for to garner like public support for the legislative changes that we're trying to make. And just to demonstrate for for those in leadership that it's something that was really popular and people were interested in it. It was something that built community and just tons of positive aspects of food trucks and what they really can do for the community. But so we used to do a lot of that. Now it's just sort of there's a website that kind of like diverts traffic to all the members of the coalition, people who are looking for catering events and food truck rentals, that kind of thing.
So scheduling availability, just like
really like most of what it is now is like they just kind of direct people to to the trucks that are part of the coalition.
That's valuable, like a directory that people can kind of see who's out there, what they're doing, maybe get on their sites, look at their schedules, see where they're at, that kind of thing. So
we built out a website that shows everyone could submit like their menus and photos of the truck and the food and all that. So it's just a nice like resource for people who are who don't know much about the food truck scene and just want to kind of gauge like okay, so I want a food truck to cater an event, especially nowadays, like during COVID, that it's such a safe route of catering gatherings. So so that way they can go on to the website, they can take a look at okay, so here's some different local options and just get a sense of like what they do, how to get in touch, all that.
Got it, Eric. All right, so you got to get on top of regulation, directory, and events, and launch your brand in a new market. No big deal. Not like you have too much on your plate right now. So, but I think it's a good way to go about it. Especially like if you start cultivating that for that community, you're going to put yourself out there and show that your intent is about galvanizing and bringing people together at the onset versus just going in and trying to sell your stuff over somebody else's stuff. I think that's a very thoughtful way to go about it. So, all right, Rachel, New Orleans to Chicago. How the hell does that happen? Break it down for us a little bit.
Yeah, so we got married in 2014. And at that point, decided to move up to Chicago. Now, I'm from Wilmette, in the suburbs of Chicago, and my husband is from Venezuela. So we knew that we wanted to live near family, and I knew that I did not want to, be leaving the country. So his family at the time was still back in Venezuela. So it was a pretty easy choice to head back up north. And my stepdaughter at the time was like 8 years old, I believe. And when she would come and stay with us for, summers, winter break, spring break, that kind of thing, it was really challenging to operate the truck and, entertain her and take care of her and whatnot. And so, we knew that as we got closer to starting a family, it was going to be really challenging to do that without family nearby. So, so that explained the move up north. We debated about the idea of, bringing that truck up to Chicago.
That was my first instinct, right? Probably.
Right. Or selling it, selling the business, selling the truck, something along those lines. But yeah, when it came down to it, we had really established a nice following in New Orleans. And so when we were able to find a way to allow it to continue, we decided to take a chance and go that route. So,
all right, let's hover on that for a moment, because this is another thing that we talked about with Eric, and also Eric, another family business where you're trying to make decisions. Eric has a young son as well, and that comes up a lot as like he's trying to build a legacy, trying to build sustainable lifestyle for him and his family, and that's a huge challenge. But we also talked about a lot about people, right? Investing in your most valuable asset, people, is something we talk about a lot. And so I'm guessing you had somebody who just had the self-starter, motivated, somebody who understood the brand, somebody you had trust and confidence in. Who is that? How were you able to move something that needs all of your attention and move across the country, basically, to be able to keep that La Cocinita brand in New Orleans?
Sure. So we talked about the possibility of looking to hire someone and decided that, bringing someone on, like from scratch just seemed too daunting. And also like, it would be hard to trust somebody to really run the business properly. And we, at the time, we had a part-time employee who was about to graduate from college with a business degree. And it was his side gig during college. But as he, got closer to graduation, we started talking to him about our intentions in terms of, moving up to Chicago. And my husband made a joke about, hey, is your dream is your dream job after your business degree from Tulane to operate a food truck? Right?
Obviously, the answer was instantly yes.
Yeah. So, and it turned out to be something that he was really interested in doing. And so, he's a really hardworking, dedicated, loyal, trustworthy guy who just really like understood the way that the business needed to run. And it was a big undertaking for him. It was a big undertaking for us, like, the two of us to do it. And so, all of it being on his shoulders, we would come back in town to visit and check on things and, help support him in different ways. But yeah, it was a big, undertaking for him. And he did a fantastic job. And so, at the time, we didn't have like the brick and mortar base. And so he was operating out of a commissary kitchen and running the food truck and, in different spots and all that. So, so that worked. It could not have worked out better for us in terms of like.
Can we acknowledge and drop his name and give a shout out here? If
Joe Sturtz.
What is it?
Joe Sturtz.
Joe Sturtz. All right. We talk a lot about unsung hospitality heroes. It's like who we started this show for.
Basically like, so he was managing everything. We also had, our kitchen manager, Sandra, who we were able to trust to just continue to cook everything the way that it's supposed to be. Like she just has that intuition, and so yeah, like, we weren't on site to taste everything and make sure that everything was, was the way it's supposed to be. But we knew and trusted that, everything that she was making was, on brand and delicious and perfect. So yeah, between, Sandra and Joe are just kind of our dream team.
Eric, you got to find Sandra and Joe.
Sandra
and Joe, and you'll be golden.
Yeah, you have got to find your Sandra and your Joe. It is foundational. We look, as chefs, as restaurant operators, we suck at delegating. We say we do. We suck at it. We suck at it. We just are so hands-on. We need to touch everything. We need to taste everything. Strength and vulnerability, absolutely. You have to truly, not just give them a title, truly put your faith in them, which is fucking scary as hell when your livelihood and your kids' livelihood is on it, yet it's the only chance that you have. Otherwise, you will be a servant to your business forever. And working in the business versus on the business as you grow is going to be so important. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Joe, Sandra, big shout out to you. I'm big fans of you and I've never met you. And that's what this is all about. That's what this show is all about. So appreciate that. All right, Rachel, bring us to Chicago now. You decide what to
So we opened a food truck in Chicago. And
right away, like what was that process like for you?
Yeah, we bought a truck while we were still in New Orleans.
Okay.
We drove it up to Chicago. Yeah, we had it built out in Ohio. It was ready we moved in June. It was ready in the first week of July. So yeah, we kind of, which to us, like the timeline felt delayed because we wanted to open, like the week after we arrived. But yeah, so we just kind of hit the ground running with sending the truck out for lunches downtown, trying to find different opportunities for festivals and events, and putting ourselves out there in terms of catering. We already had our catering menu built out from New Orleans, and so it was easy to just adapt that to what we were doing in Chicago. I mean, it's still the case that our two catering menus vary. I think it's sales tax. The rates are slightly different, and then just a couple of minor tweaks. Our seafood option in Chicago is fish, in New Orleans it's shrimp. And that's,
but
that's
even that little bit of nuance probably does matter a little bit, right? You have some lake fish here, and you have some shrimp down. It's just what tended to be popular and easily accessible and local, and So one thing on that, Eric, I think super important is we want to stay very true to who we are as we expand and not lose track of who you are. And all of a sudden you're going to Nashville and now you're trying to do hot chicken and barbecue and this and that and trying to like chase what's authentic to them, stay authentic to you. But there's those little micro nuances where you can stay on brand, as Rachel mentioned, which just that little, the shrimp and the fish. I love that. It's just this little micro tweak that can make all the difference. One, because of the product itself, but two, because of your ability to be thoughtful and understand the market, just that little bit of nuance. So I really appreciate that. Rachel, I wanted to understand timeline. When did you move back to Chicago?
June 2014.
Okay. So you've been operating two for 7 years, coming up on 7 years this summer.
Yeah.
Wow. Why do you still do it?
It's I mean, part of it is it's our passion project, right? Like it's something that my husband and I built from the ground up, something we're really proud of. We've a lot of times we really enjoy it. Not all the
time. That's
there are a lot of headaches involved, everything from the equipment, malfunction to deal with. Okay, the generator died, we need a new generator, and let's figure out how to hook up to power for tonight's catering event in the meantime, to like and then replace it to the tune of $5,000 or whatever, there's a hurricane coming in New Orleans, and what are we going to do?
I can see Eric's reaction is like, yep, I've done that. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I feel you on that.
I have a spare generator just for that reason.
So in Chicago, we have the storage to have a spare, but we don't in New Orleans. So, but yeah, I mean, but that so there are challenges involved with not being able to be on site, at least for one location at any given time. Right now, I mean, you can see I'm in a hotel room, I assume it's obvious. So right now we're traveling. We're not in either location, but like both teams are equipped to handle us not being there. They're used to it. While there are a lot of logistical challenges involved in not being on site, we also have the benefit of, complementary seasonality, right? So the slow season in Chicago is when we're, slammed with Mardi Gras most years, in New Orleans, and in New Orleans, the slow season is summer, where it's just unbearably hot, and we often bring our truck up from New Orleans to Chicago so that we can just crank out double the catering, right?
Okay. Whoa, a couple things. This is good. Oh, I like this a lot. So you're even looking at the ability then to put two trucks in Chicago. Do you go take two trucks down to New Orleans as well, or just bring one up?
We have before. So we've brought both trucks to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and it's a 10-day stretch where it's the best, it's the best week of the year in New Orleans. The problem is, whereas in Chicago you've got like a whole 3 to 4 month stretch where we're just, slammed because it's the one opportunity that people have to, be outside, cater events outside, have,
it's Cubs and White Sox season.
Yeah. I mean, everything happens during those few months. And so every weekend, we're just jam packed. Whereas in New Orleans, there's always stuff going on. But Mardi Gras, that stretch is so much shorter. And so we've only done that once where we brought the Chicago truck to New Orleans. Understood.
One other thing, and then Erica, see if there's any last question that you'd like to get from Rachel. I definitely going to connect the two of you because I think there's some interesting parallels, and you guys need to connect in Chicago when you're back in Chicago, Rachel. Yeah. And the fact that you're not in Chicago or New Orleans working it makes me so happy, because one of the finite goals that I have for operators always is, can you take a 2-week vacation and not worry about your businesses, not be on your phone the whole time, not be worrying about everything? Have you truly set your business and your people up for success so that you can take a 2-week vacation? And it's just, it's a small thing, but it means you're on the right path. So I really appreciate that you're traveling right now. That's very exciting to me, because that's the goal for Eric. That should be the goal for everybody, is to put yourself in that position and not feel like you're leaving your team in the lurch. Because we've all felt like that, like I have to take this vacation and I'm gonna force myself to, yet I'm leaving my business, my people, my mental health in a bad spot. So I really appreciate that. So thank you for being on vacation right now, Rachel. This couldn't be better timing. Eric, as we wrap, any last questions that you have for Rachel? I'd love to know if there's anything else we could get from her while we have her on.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's a little bit more of a technical question for me. So, how did you guys find the budget to employ somebody full time to do that stuff? Is that was it borrowed money? Was it cash flow from operations, or?
So let's see. We
gotta think back a little bit.
Yeah. So the second truck was funded by the first truck. Then our first restaurant space, we borrowed money. Our second restaurant space was paid for by the first restaurant space.
Okay, good. So you were able to not run into what I mentioned at the onset, where location 2 or location 3 siphon from the flagship location, and then you end up upside down in both or all 3 locations. So that's good. I love hearing that. I think Eric too is maybe thinking Joe, how were you able to make the transition and get Joe in a position with not a lot of capital potentially? How were you able to put him in a position? Was it sweat equity? How did you get yourself there?
Yeah, I mean, with Joe, we gave him a salary as well as a 10% cut, which we felt it was like 10% of the profits. We felt like that, and that motivated him to watch the bottom line, because he had, he had a vested interest in making sure that that not only did we perform well as far as revenue, but also, that he was watching the expenditures and whatnot. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we cut our salaries significant so that we were just taking a very marginal, I think it was $200 a week or something, for us, so that most of what we were paying ourselves was then going to Joe instead. And then the location that we were at, actually involved with on a day-to-day basis in Chicago, that's where we were taking the majority of our salary at that point.
That's why the timeline was important for you, because you mentioned it felt delayed, even though you hit town, you barely unpacked your bags, and then you were ready to go with the new truck. Sure. Is because you needed to start generating cash flow out of the second location, the second truck, to be able to offset your lost income. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So timing, Eric, I think is going to be crucial in that process. You're going to have to take a haircut, I think, no matter what, and risk that no matter what. I like that, the 10% of the net, I think, is a good way to go about it. It's not necessarily they have skin in the game. They do have that vested interest, even though they may not have the stake in the business. You can look at that being long-term. I do think you have to give somebody, that additional incentive to be able to have them really run the business and feel like it's their business because they're driving themselves, their productivity towards something. So I appreciate that. This is great. Rachel, thank you so much. You're like so many overlapping storylines between where Eric's at and where he's looking to go, and a lot of that. So this could not have been a better conversation. And Rachel, grateful to you, the work that you're doing, and we're going to follow up the coalition. I think there's some interesting things to learn there, and I want that TikTok video, Eric, when you go and get La Cocinita up in Chicago.
Sounds great. Yeah. Always happy to share what we've learned along the way, and hopefully that'll help you on your journey.
We got to help each other out. We
Always.
gotta help each other out. The small operator. So Rachel, appreciate you. You have a great day. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Cheers. All right, Eric. That was great.
Yeah, really good stuff there.
I mean, so many intersections between where you're at, where you're looking to go, hurdles that they've overcome. You know, even just you mentioned kind of a detailed question of like how they make that transition, because I know that's top of mind for you. Like, how do you? It's just like I see it there, yet I can't give up the small amount of income that this thing does pay me, because I know you would reinvest all of that. So feeling good. Feel like that was valuable, good information for you.
Absolutely.
Some follow up for sure with Rachel will be helpful for you as well.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, it's good to see kind of a trajectory there that, you know, kind of their timeline is, you know, not completely similar, but it's good to see that someone, you know, kind of rolling back to T-Chad's episode last week too, is kind of like to see those trajectory of these successful folks is really empowering and helping us with our confidence. I'm digging it.
Good. I love that. And I just know T-Chad and Rachel will be a part of your story ongoing. And that shit matters to me. That's why I'm so motivated to have you on here, because, you know, they will be a part of your journey in some level, a check-in every once in a while, the TikTok video of you being like, all of those things, they're meaningful, and people need to feel that connection. It's why we do what we do. We're cultivating a sense of belonging. And sometimes it's just, when you're an entrepreneur, it is lonely, man. It is lonely. You're on an island. And so just a couple of other people that have been on that same island with no raft and figured it out, like that, it matters. So, all right, Eric, let's go get back to it. Go keep working on some Burger Buzz burgers. I'm excited about that as well. I mean, maybe you need to drive one of the trucks to Chicago to La Cocinita and do like a collaboration while you're there. Oh man, now my creative wheels are spinning. Let's make that happen, Eric.
For sure.
Let's make that happen. All right, you have a good one, my friend. Take care.
Thank you, Chef.
Cheers. All right, everybody. Amazing episode. Absolutely. So grateful to Rachel and getting on with us, especially on vacation. Like, how amazing was that she felt the need to and the motivation to support Eric in this time. So once again, Best Served Podcast 297, growing into new markets. There's so much that goes into that. And the fact that Eric now has an understanding of just a couple little inspirations and ideas, information is so valuable. So next week and the next couple weeks, we're going to be talking marketing. We're going to be talking about getting that message out there, what it's going to take to grow. Marketing for carry out right now is so fundamentally important for every brand, and food trucks' ability to kind of navigate going closer to where people are, I think, is super valuable. So that's it for this episode. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Cheers.